Hello again, Tony here, back on my channel once more, this time with another deck profile. See, with Phantom Rage being only a week away, and that potentially releasing around 7 new decks that I can potentially deck profile, I figured that this week I'd take it a little easy and do something a little more simple, and that simple is going to be Add Ignister. So what is Add Ignister? Add Ignister is a Cybers-based archetype that came out all the way back in Ignition Assault, and despite the strong opening they had with 2 Searchers, 4 Extenders, and a plethora of Extract monsters, including a Link 3 Soul Charge, they didn't really have the ability to put up an amazing turn 1 board, and as such was dropped in the meta in lieu of something that did have an amazing turn 1 board, like Salamangreat. Despite that, however, Add Ignister has an amazing going second board, being able to put up efficient OTKs with only several cards. And with the new support that came out in the following set, they also do now have a okay going first play. And those are the things I want to showcase in this deck profile. Well, anyway, I've droned on enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Starting off our deck profile, we have the aforementioned searchers in our 3 Picari Add Ignister and our 3 Achichi Add Ignister. Both of these, when summoned, will allow you to search for a specific card, with a Picari allowing you to add an AI spell and trap, and a Chi-Chi allowing you to add any Add Ignister monster. And both of these are instrumental in starting your bigger combos. Picari being able to search for an AI spell and trap, with one of them being a Reborn and the other being a special summon from hand that's not once per turn, is instrumental in turning your graveyard and hand into additional extenders. A Chi-Chi, by virtue of being able to search for Picari, but as well as any of your other Add Ignister monsters, most of them being extenders, is really useful in grabbing the right combo piece you need to build the board you're aiming for. Furthermore, Picari has an additional effect that allows you to change any Add Ignister monster into a level 4, which is extremely useful in Xyz plays, given the fact that Add Ignister can do Xyz and Synchro as well as Ritual plays on top of the generic Link plays most other decks are known for. The next monster in our lineup is 3 Baruru Add Ignister. Baruru, when summoned, allows you to dump any Add Ignister monster from the deck to the graveyard. And given that we know that this deck has a Reborn as well as a Link 3 Soul Charge, this can be an extremely powerful effect to set up with. More importantly though, Baruru is a tuner, and when you synchro with Baruru to make any Cyber Synchro monster, you can summon back the other material. And it's important to note that the material that you summon back does not have its effects negated. And this is important because in a lot of situations, you'll be synchroning with Baruru with another Add Ignister monster that has its effects already negated. So being able to go even on that synchro summon and still get the effect of the Add Ignister can be extremely powerful in building your final end board. Moving on to the Add Ignister extenders, we have our 2 Hiyari Add Ignister, our 2 Doshin Add Ignister, and our 2 Gachiri Add Ignister. Each of these monsters have an effect to special summon themselves from the hand. Hiyari and Doshin can special summon themselves from the hand while you control another Add Ignister monster. Gachiri, on the other hand, can special summon himself from the hand by negating the effects of one Cybers monster on the field. And given that most of your Cybers monsters are on summon effects with nothing much else, opening a Gachiri in most cases is pretty much identical to opening a Hiyari or Doshin. It's important to note that each of these Add Ignister monsters also have an additional useful effect. Doshin can recycle Link monsters to search for an AI fusion spell. Hiyari can tribute Cybers monsters to search for any level 5 or higher Add Ignister monster, but should you tribute a Link, search for an AI ritual spell. And Gachiri here can protect any of your Cybers monsters from being destroyed by card effects once per turn. And while we may not make use of Doshin's effect, we'll be definitely making use of Hiyari's effect, not to search for an Add Ignister ritual, but to search for our Gachiri by virtue of being a level 5 or higher Add Ignister monster. And being a water monster that can search a different attribute from itself in Gachiri, an earth monster, can be extremely useful in building our big boss monster going forward. The last Add Ignister monster we play is 2 Doyon Add Ignister. Doyon, when summoned, allows you to add back any Add Ignister monster from your graveyard to your hand. Furthermore, should you link away with him into a Cybers Link monster, Doyon can add back any AI spell and trap card from your graveyard. And it's pretty easy to see that this card requires some level of setup to make the maximum use of. And while most deck lists might play 3, I feel like 2 isn't optimal just by the fact that if I need setup for it, it's just much easier for me to dump it off of Baruru when I have the setup so that I can make full use of it when I need it. The next monster we play is 3 Balancer Lord. Balancer Lord can pay 1,000 life to gain an additional normal summon of any Cybers monster, and should he be banished, special summon any level 4 or lower monster from your hand. Now, while both effects are really great for extension, it's that special summon effect that's really key in a certain combo in searching and making full use of a Baruru, and I'll showcase that later on. The last monster we play is 2 Flame Buffalo. See, Flame Buffalo is in this deck for 2 reasons. First off, taking a page from the Salem Gradebook, we also have a Link 1 monster, so it can be pretty easy for me to normal summon Flame Buffalo, link it into my Link 1 to discard a dead Cyberse monster to draw 2 cards, potentially fixing my hand. More importantly though, I play a bunch of Adagnister monsters that can't all special summon themselves from the hand, but I play a bunch of spell and trap support to reborn them from the graveyard. As such, it can be pretty cool of a setup to discard one of those dead Adagnister monsters to potentially then reborn it off of my graveyard as a form of setup for my big combo. Moving on to the spells, we have our 3 Ignister Island. Island is your power play card. While you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon one Adagnister monster from your hand that's a different attribute from another Adagnister monster you may have summoned off of Island in the same turn. So to explain how Ignister Island works, here's how it goes. Suppose I control Island and 2 Adagnister monsters in my hand. Since I have no monsters in my main monster zone, I can activate Island's effect to special summon one of them to the field. Now it's important to note that Island's effect is not a hard once per turn, which means as long as I find a way to clear out my main monster zone, I can keep activating Island's effect to special summon Ignisters from my hand. So let's say I link away this Adagnister monster to summon out my Link 1. Now, my main monster zone is once again free and I can activate Island's effect to special summon the other Adagnister from my hand to the field. The only caveat being that the monster I can special summon has to be a different attribute from the ones I've already summoned off of Island's effect. So in this case, let's say I also control a light and a earth. In this case, since I've already summoned a light, I can no longer summon the other light from my hand, but I can still special summon the earth off my hand off of Island's effect. Island also has an additional nifty effect where if it's in the graveyard, you can banish an Adagnister monster to reset the card. This means that on top of being a crazy extender, this card is somewhat semi-hand trap proof, as well as a useful discard fodder at certain times. Moving on from Island, we have our spell extenders. We have our 3 Idol Reborn, the 1 Monster Reborn, the 2 War Legacy Succession, and the 1 Gold Sarcophagus. Now, as the name suggests, Idol Reborn allows you to bring back 1 Adagnister monster from your graveyard, which coupled with the Reborn and the Succession gives you 6 ways to bring back monsters from your graveyard to continue your plays. Gold Sarcophagus is, on the other hand, used to banish your Balancer Lord to potentially special summon a card from your hand, just being a nice way to potentially unbrick 2 normal summons that you may have opened. Moving on from there, we have our consistency cards. We have our 3 Cyanite Mining, essentially a Rhoda for the entire archetype, the 1 Terraforming to search into our Ignister Island, and our 3 Pot of Desires, since we play a bunch of 3-ofs that we won't miss when we banish 2 of them. Rounding off the deck, we have our Hand Trap Hate. We're playing the 1 Call by the Grave and the 2 Triple Tactical Talents. Since your deck doesn't have a specific set combo, it's pretty plausible to play Triple Tactical Talents to respond to a hand trap to potentially draw into 2 new cards that might be combo pieces to continue your plays. Moving on into the extra deck, we start off with 2 Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh can be summoned by using any level 4 or lower Cyberse monster, and when your opponent activates a trap card, you contribute this card to negate the effect and banish the trap. This can be pretty useful not only as a play starter, but also as a way to make your plays imperm proof. As an added benefit, just like Linkuriboh, while he's in the graveyard, you contribute an Adagnister monster summoned from the X deck to bring this guy back from the graveyard, potentially being able to be used as a stopgap against traps that might stop potentially an OTK. Moving on to the Link 2s, we have 1 Splash Mage and 1 Cyberse Wicked. Splash Mage is pretty simple. Using 2 Cyberse monsters, you can make him, and he brings back a Cyberse monster from your graveyard, essentially being an even Link 2 combo. Wicked, on the other hand, is more important. When a monster is special summoned to a zone that Wicked points to, he can banish a Cyberse monster in the graveyard to search for any Cyberse tuner. In other words, he's a pretty useful way into your Baruru, but suppose the monster you banished from the graveyard is, let's say, your Balancer Lord, you can then immediately special summon the Baruru and make use of him that way. Moving on to our Link 3s, we have the 1 Transcode Talker for our Link Climb combos, but more importantly, we have our 2 Dark Templar Adagnister. Dark Templar is that Link 3 Soul Charge card I was talking about, requiring 3 monsters to make. Should a monster be special summoned to one of the 3 points it points to, you can special summon 2 other level 4 or lower Adagnister monsters from your graveyard to the other zones it points to. This means that since this monster required 3 monsters to make, in any given situation where you summon anything to one of its link points, you can summon back 2 of the materials you used to make this card. And while their effects are negated, given the fact that things like Baruru exist, it shouldn't be hard to somehow find a way to make their effect live again to be abused for further combos. Speaking of Baruru, I'm gonna diverge from the links a bit to talk about the other monsters in this extra deck. We have the 1 Wind Pegasus Adagnister, the 1 Light Dragon Adagnister, and the 1 Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Wind Pegasus and Light Dragon share a similar effect that allow you to store cards on the field based off of the number of Adagnister monsters you control, Wind Pegasus destroying spell and traps, and Light Dragon destroying monsters. So these cards can be pretty useful as OTK cards going second. Interestingly enough, Wind Pegasus has an additional effect where if something you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard to spin 1 card your opponent controls to the hand, effectively being a nice way to stop OTKs or get around negation. Cyber's Quantum Dragon, on the other hand, is more useful in 2 different ways. First off, while he controls a link monster on top of this card, Cyber's Quantum Dragon can be the only monster targeted by card effects or by battle, essentially being a nice way to protect your link 4 or 5s. However, should he battle, he can bounce back the monster he battles and then attack again, being a useful way to out something like Dragoons or something that can't be targeted by using its non-targeting battle effect. Going back into the links, we have our link 4 in Access Code Talker. Now, you've probably seen Access Code Talker in most decks, but in Adagnister, it's used to the fullest. Not only are you making things like Link 3s in this deck, you also are playing Link 5s and 6s, which means Access Code Talker can see upwards of 8,000 attack on its own. And given the fact that we're playing a myriad of attributes, it's pretty easy to pop your opponent's entire field and go for the OTK straight off of your first turn play in your second turn with this card. Moving on to our Link 5s, we're playing the 1 Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. Dark Fluid, when summoned, puts counters on itself equal to the number of different Cyber's extra deck types in the graveyard: Xyz, Fusion, Synchro, and Ritual. This means that given we're playing the Xyz and Synchro, this card gains at least 2 counters, and during the battle phase, those 2 counters are converted to 2,500 attack each, putting Dark Fluid in the battle phase at 8,000 attack. More importantly, you can consume these counters to negate monster effects, but should you consume them in the battle phase when he attacks, he gains additional attacks that way. In most cases, this is one of the decent first turn options you can make with your Adagnister board, but in most cases, with the new support, you'll be wanting to make the next card more likely. And that monster is our insane Link 6, the Arrival Cyber's Adagnister. Requiring at least 3 monsters to make of different attributes, the Arrival Cyberus is unaffected by all card effects and gains 1,000 attack for each link material used. That means in an Adagnister deck that plays all 6 attributes, you can summon this card easily with 6 materials for a 6,000 attack towers that comes with a bonus effect that lets you target one of your opponent's monsters, destroy it, and then special the token to your side of the field. And the fact that he's unaffected by card effects means that your opponent has no way of negating that pop effect or stopping it. It's also important to note that this is the easiest towers to summon. There is no additional condition that prevents this card from being summoned from the graveyard or summoned back from effects, which means that it's very easy on the following turn to bring this card back from the graveyard, pop another card unimpeded, and build crazier boards. In fact, there's some boards where I've made this card, had it killed, and then brought it back to then summon an Access Code Talker into 8,000 attack to game my opponent that way. And I'll show you some of those combos when I get to the combo video. So like Infernity, Adagnister is one of those decks that don't really have set combos, instead being able to build boards out of whatever rainbow hand it's given. As such, for the combo portion of this video, we're going to be doing something very similar to Infernity, where I show a few test hands and then see what boards I can build out of that. Anyway, the deck is already shuffled, let us begin. So our first test hand will consist of a Pot of Desires, a Chi-Chi Adagnister, an Idol Reborn, a Picari Adagnister, and a Flame Buffalo. Okay, so just by opening a Chi-Chi and Picari alone, I think we have a huge combo, but I'm going to see what I first draw off the Pot of Desires. I'm going to activate Desires and banish 10 off the top of my deck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, to draw 2 new cards. I'm going to draw into a Hiyari and a Signet Mining. And I think just by these 2 cards alone, we have enough cards here to make a 6 material Arrival Cyberus without even using the Flame Buffalo. To start, I think I'm going to normal summon the Picari, and Picari here is going to grab me my Ignister Island. I'm going to activate the Ignister Island and then link away the Picari to make my Link 1 Link Karibo. From there, since I have no monsters in my main monster zone, I can activate the island's effect to special summon out my Achichi to the field. Achichi now will search for a Gachiri. Then I'm going to activate the Cyanide Mining now to discard the Flame Buffalo since I have no need for it anymore, to grab a Doshin Adagnister. I'm then going to link away the Linkuriboh and the Achichi here to make the Link 2 Cyberse Wicked. Since I once again have no monsters in my main monster zone, I'll activate the effect of Island once more, this time summoning out the Hiyari to a zone that Wicked points to. And since a monster was summoned to a zone that Wicked points to, I can activate its effect, banishing the Flame Buffalo in my graveyard, to now search for a Bururu Adagnister. From there, since I control an Adagnister monster, I can special summon the Doshin from my hand to the field. And then I'm going to link away all 3 of these monsters to summon out my Link 3 Dark Templar. Since once again I have no monsters in my main monster zone, I'm going to activate the effect of my island to now special summon out a Bururu to the zone that Dark Templar points to. And the way I want to form the chain links here is I want to make my Dark Templar chain link 1 and my Bururu chain link 2. The reason being that Dark Templar doesn't actually target for its revival, which means if I dump a Doyon off of the effect of Bururu as my chain link 2, I can bring back that same Doyon as part of my Dark Templar's effect. I'm going to bring it back along with a Bakari. From there, since Doyon's effect is negated, I'm going to synchro with the Doyon and the Bururu to summon out my Wind Pegasus Adagnister. And now, since Bururu was used as a material for a Cyber Synchro monster, I can now use its effect to summon back the Doyon. Doyon, with its effects no longer negated, will grab me back my Hiyari. From there, I'm going to activate the Idol Reborn, this time bringing back an Achichi from my graveyard. Then, since I didn't actually summon Hiyari off of its own effect, I can now do so and then link away the Hiyari and the Doyon to summon out a Splash Mage. Now, Doyon, since it was used as a material for a Cyberse Link, can now grab me back my Idol Reborn. From there, I'm going to activate my Splash Mage's effect, this time summoning back the Earth attribute Doshin. And just like that, we now have 6 monsters with different attributes required to make our 6th material arrival. We have the Fire type Achichi, the Earth type Doshin, the Wind type Pegasus, the Water type Splash Mage, the Light type Bakari, and the Dark type Dark Templar. And from there, I'm going to turn all these monsters into material for one big chunky boy, and summon out my rival Cyberse Adagnister, with 6,000 attack and unaffected by all card effects. Now you may be thinking that this board can be pretty subpar, but I can assure you this board is actually deceptively strong. So suppose on my opponent's turn, my opponent does find a way to run over the Arrival Cyber, since that's the only way you're going to get rid of it. When you do so, I can now activate the Wind Pegasus in my graveyard, banishing it to spin back one of my opponent's cards, and this will pave my way for my following turn. Should I live to that next turn, I'm going to draw my opening card, and from there, I can activate the Idol Reborn to summon back the Arrival Cyberse Adagnister. And even though Arrival doesn't have any attack, it can still pop one of my opponent's monsters, and since it's unaffected by card effects, it can't be stopped. So I'm going to use that effect to pop something else that's stopping me from doing my plays, and this will summon out an Adagnister token. Now, with these 2 remaining cards that I have in my hand, I can first start off by normal summoning the Doyon, with Doyon's effect allowing me to grab back a Hiyari once more. From there, I can now use my Gachiri effect, targeting my Doyon, negating its effects to special summon it to the field. I'm then going to link away the Doyon, the Gachiri, and the token, this time to summon out my Link 3 Dark Templar once more. And since Doyon was sent to the graveyard to summon a Cyberse Link, I can then grab back the Idol Reborn once again. Now, since I control an Adagnister monster, I can now special summon Hiyari to a zone that Dark Templar points to, and then use Dark Templar's effect once again to summon back a Bururu and a Bakari. From there, I'm going to synchro the Bakari and the Bururu to summon out my other synchro in the Cyberse Quantum Dragon. From there, I'm then going to link away the At Arrival with no attack and the Dark Templar to make my Link 4 Access Code Talker. And using Access Code, I'm going to target the Link 6 Arrival I used as part of its material and turn my Arrival into, or my Access Code into an 8,000 attack beater. And in most cases, when you have this kind of board, your opponent can just activate Imperm, targeting the access code on resolution of the attack gain to put it back to 23. But since you have the Cyber's Quantum on the field, nothing can be targeted except for that Cyber's Quantum. This protects your access code. From there, I can activate the access code effect, banishing, let's say, a Dark Templar and, I don't know, the Splash Mage to pop 2 cards, leaving my opponent with essentially maybe 1 or 2 monsters left. From there, I can go battle phase, attack with my Cyber's Quantum, bounce back a monster, run over the other monster, and then just swing for game with AK on just the access code alone. And this essentially means that even without the fact that my opponent can out the Arrival Cybers, I still have essentially an OTK going into my following turn that my opponent has to be afraid of. And that's going to do it for our Adagnister deck profile. Honestly, I think Adagnister is one of those archetypes that really have everything going for them. With consistency, extenders, a lot of crazy plays, and a towers based monster, it's definitely one of the more fun decks to play taking into a tier 2 event. And I think with the right pilot, it could definitely maybe top a real regional event. Now, onto the real talk. I'm pretty sure this isn't the most riveting content, and that's because I think I'm currently in the process of creating more content when Phantom Rage comes out, as well as a Monday series that I'm hoping to debut next month. So look forward to that while you consume this. Anyway, my name is Tony Yang, this has been an Adagnister deck profile, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.